prayer answered in Perth. Margaret and her husband, Lavana, was sitting one morning in their living room in Perth, Australia, after returning the previous night from a trip to Papua New Guinea, located some 2,000 miles, which is 4,500 kilometers away. Margaret was reflecting quietly on her father's parting words at the airport. After praying with her, he had said, "Margaret, Jesus is coming back very soon. When you arrive at your home in Perth, my God will be at your door the next day." Not far from Margaret and Lavana's home, literature evangelist Joe Lang and several friends were praying at a Seventh-day Adventist church. They were praying for divine appointments as they prepared to head out for a day of canvassing. A couple hours later, Joe knocked on the door of Margaret and Lavana's home. The home looked no different from the other houses on the street. Lav opened the door and politely looked through the book that Joe showed him. But he didn't express any real interest in the book. Then Joe gave him a copy of Ellen White's The Great Controversy and began telling him about it. Lavana flipped through several pages and called to his wife. "Do we have this book?" he asked. Margaret came to the door and confirmed that they did have the book. She turned to Joe and explained that she was a former Seventh-day Adventist. "We just came home from Papua New Guinea last night," she said. "The last thing that my dad said to me was that he would be praying for God to show up at my house. It was a hot day in Perth, 109.5 degrees Fahrenheit. But Joe felt goosebumps on her arms." She and Margaret looked at each other with big smiles and marveled at how God had answered the prayer of Margaret's father. "Wouldn't it be great if I could come to your church and share this story?" Margaret said. "It would," Joe agreed, and the two exchanged phone numbers. A few weeks later, Margaret stood with tears in her eyes at Bickley's Seventh-day Adventist Church and told her story of how God had found a lost, straying lamb. God used a woman with a copy of The Great Controversy in Australia to answer a father's passionate prayer in Papua New Guinea.